Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Bullfrog, or as some might call it, the Bison Big Brother, or the Bison 2.0. Just like we had the Ram 2.0, which ended up being the FFAR, it's pretty much superior to the Bison in almost every way when it comes to Warzone. Has this big ammo capacity, but what most people probably want to know is if it is viable within the current meta for Warzone, and it 100% is. We're going to talk about that in today's video. If you enjoy the video, learn something new, please do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're brand new, looking to find your way back, double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on, so you'll be able to find your way back to the channel. So a few of the things that the Bison did have it going for it were the fact that it has relatively clean iron sights, has little to no recoil, and then on top of that, has a large ammo capacity. The Bullfrog has all of that, has pretty similar damage profiles. The only difference is it fires bullets faster, 100 rounds per minute faster around there, and that is enough to kind of put it from low tier, mid tier, up into mid to top tier, and it is very viable within the meta. So if you saw the video about bullet velocities a few days ago, you'll know that what bullet velocities do. And one of the nice things is True Game Data has actually gone and updated his site with attachments for these individual weapons, so you can kind of pick up some of the stuff there. I'm not sure if everything is filled in because it is a very time consuming process, but it does show that kind of what I thought about these barrels does transfer over. And one of the things that the Bullfrog has going for it, besides its faster fire rate, is its pretty decent bullet velocity for an SMG. You can see most of the Cold War ones are right around 350, including the MAC-10. The AK-740U is an exception, but it really has a slow time to kill, so not as practical. But this one, you could bump it up to like 1,900, which makes it very good and even more viable for mid to longer range engagements, the same way that we experienced with the MP7 during one of the first seasons with Warzone when that was still in the meta. So True Game Data, I'm going to go ahead and link the site down in the description, which I have on pretty much all of my videos, because it has the most updated stats on this specific weapon and how it fits into the meta. If you're landing stomach and chest shots, it's going to be 8 shots to kill, and if you manage to only hit the limbs for some reason, maybe you're shooting under a car and only hitting feet, it'll be 9 shots to kill. So to pretty much bump the shots to kill from 5 shots up to 8, up to 9. So overall, that ends up being how the TTK works out. So once we go ahead and take a look at the shots to kill, we remove the travel time because for the most part, we're going to be keeping it relatively close. I can zoom in a little bit, just to get a little bit more lines closer together. This is a 3-plated enemy, and we're going to focus on extremities first. And I have 2 different Bullfrogs in here, but they're pretty much overlap. You can see kind of where this green line is. It's pretty much tied with the MAC-10 because the MAC-10 does have that open bolt delay. In terms of the MP5, you can see their TTKs are a little bit faster, but in terms of range, look at how far the MAC-10 goes out, and these are fully built classes. These are the loadouts that I'm using in this top section right here, and you can see that the loadouts are pushing this because of that task force barrel is pushing the Bullfrog all the way up to 23 meters for that first damage drop off. So in reality, if you manage to only hit headshots at close range, the TTK is going to be pretty nasty. Now when we go to the stomach, we can kind of see these similar patterns. We got the MAC-10 still kind of in the middle. Bullfrog slowed down a little bit in the stomach region. If we go ahead and go to the chest, you can see that the Bullfrog is still not doing the best, but you can see it does okay. After about 12 meters, this is going to be that mid-range to long-range option. It still performs very competitively, and the fact that you have almost no recoil makes it so it's way more manageable. Obviously, recoil is not as important within this 10 meters, so you can get gunned in this area. The priority here is a couple different things that we're going to talk about that's going to help you in this specific area. As you'll see, the headshots, because of the way the headshot multiplier works with this weapon, it ends up being an absolute melt machine. Obviously, you're not going to land all of those headshots that we talked about. It's not going to be all 5 shots to the head. But if you start mixing a few in there, the TTK could drop dramatically. And because of that MAC-10 nerf, you'll never get those low TTKs. Obviously, it's a little bit lower, but it's not like, damn, look at this, is like almost a slow TTK with 100 health. So obviously, that's all headshots, so that's less realistic. But now let's go ahead and talk about a little bit about why these class setups work the way that they do. So we get the regular stat comparison here. We have the MAC-10, We have the MP5, Cold War MP5, Bullfrog, and Bullfrog. There's actually 2 of them. And I'll explain the main difference there. You guys probably already saw it as we're going through. So we have the rate of fires right here, range modifiers. The ADS speed is something we'll go ahead and talk about. So overall, ADS on the Cold War MP5 makes it feel a little bit sluggish compared to the others. So that's one reason why people probably veer away from that one. Even though the recoil is nice, pretty consistent, and the damage is nice in terms of TTK, it's just that it's a little bit slower. So you got to factor in all these things. You're seeing how a gun's going to fit into the meta. Then we get to movement speed. You can see that the MAC-10 is the fastest, but it's not like miles better. It's just that little bit of extra speed allows you to get that extra mobility. Also, when it comes to the strafe speed or strafe walking speed forward, when your ADS walking forward, these are the various speeds here. And you can see that the Bullfrog is a little bit slower, but that's okay because we're solving for one of the issues here, and that's its close range TTK. And we end up with 2 class setups, one that I'll probably end up recommending over the other, but here's kind of what you end up with, right? We have a hip fire spread of the MAC-10, which is atrocious. This is why you should not hip fire with the MAC-10 unless you just, you got lucky RNG that day. We have the regular MP5, which is about 2, and this is an MP5 hip fire build. And then we have the same thing for the Cold War. So you can't really hip fire that weapon, and ADS is slow. Those are the 2 drawbacks, even though it does have a fast TTK. When it comes to the Bullfrog, look, we got it almost as good as one of the best hip fire weapons in all of Modern Warfare. And we could go a little bit worse, but we're not going to necessarily go all the way. And then right here, you can see the bullet velocity. It's like 50% more than these other 2. Reload, it is kind of in the middle of all these, so not a big deal, especially since you get 65 bullets and the damage is solid. So overall, he's obviously updated the site, so it has a little bit more information that we're talking about, and I'm sure they're still going to get more fine-tuned because this is only for SMGs. It's going to expand as time goes, and then once there's an update, some of these are going to get ranked a little bit higher and lower because attachments are going to do different things. For example, the rear grip, which pretty much we've identified on multiple different weapons, don't really do much, or it's so insignificant you wouldn't even notice. So in this specific case, this is like a quarter of a frame at 60 FPS or 1 frame at 240 frames, which is nothing. So you shouldn't be using really any of these. And if you have one attachment left over that you just have to use, I would go with the speed tape if you have to choose something. So now let's go muzzle. He did end up finding a hidden stat, which was vertical recoil. It's not even something that I thought to test. It's just kind of one of those things that you find organically when you're testing for it. And right here, he got a range modifier, which we knew about, ADS penalty, which generally happens with the monolithic suppressor, but it didn't give us any extra bullet velocity. So later on, this could be coded a little differently, where this could actually have bullet velocity and maybe not the vertical recoil. Maybe this was unintended, or maybe it'll hurt your ADS movement speed. So there are other variables to look at here, but that's kind of the one you have to go with. At least in my opinion, you stay off the mini map, gives you a little bit extra range, tied in with the barrel, which we'll talk about, and then it doesn't have a huge ADS penalty. Now for the barrels, this all aligns with the spreadsheet that I kind of put together with bullet velocity. The one thing I did mention with the MAC-10 is it had a plus 50 range modifier for %. It was very small numbers when I tested with the MAC-10, so I just didn't have a chance to test all the other SMGs. Now we found out that that's pretty consistent across all SMGs, and without the penalty to vertical or horizontal bounce like it mentions in the cons, this weapon is by far the best one to go with because you don't really need to be challenging people at 70 meters, and 900 bullet velocity is still pretty dang good. So this is like universally the one you got to use on pretty much every SMG, and later on they're going to probably have ADS penalties that they don't currently have, so that'll kind of balance out where you need to use other attachments. And this was pretty straightforward. Vertical recoil reduced by 13%. This is a find that Ponyhoff found, and he shared with the community, and we talked about that in a previous video. Then we got the Spetsnaz, which is 10% and 10%, so pretty straightforward there. And then the speed grip actually slows you down in these areas instead of speeding you up. Same with this one here. It does the opposite of what they're saying, and then you do get a little bit improvement to your horizontal bounce. Overall, that's 13%, 15%. I'd rather take the addition of these, even though it's not the same number. Personally, I like the way these perform. Ammunition's another straightforward one in my opinion. You can go with fast mags if you want to reload faster, but you get an extra 15 bullets that you'll almost never use. So it gives you ample time to choose when you want to reload, without an ADS penalty. Obviously, you can see these ones are the issue, and we'll talk about that too right here. This regular one versus the speed loader, you can see that right here, it's 29 and this one's 58. It's twice as slow. So that's why I think a lot of YouTubers and streamers and everyone's just going with the regular mag instead of the speed one because of the ADS, and there's not a huge difference to your reload speed. Here's where the difference in the setups are. Personally, I don't like the iron sights. They are fairly clean, but when you really want to engage someone, I always feel comfortable more with a red dot in my screen or a blue dot or whatever. So in most cases, I recommend going with the low zoom optic. That's not going to hurt your ADS speed. Personally, the one I liked and then that I used in today's video was the Microflex LED. Pretty straightforward there. But if you really want to have this be a hipfire machine and be able to maximize that, we also have the lasers that are doing a huge benefit with not too much of a penalty to your ADS. Only 8 milliseconds, which is half a frame. Not noticeable, especially at 60 FPS. And then we have the hipfire spread cut down by 65%. So this is a no-brainer in terms of out of these options. This is like stupid good. If you care about that ADS speed, you can go with the steady aim laser, but you could double that up almost and get twice as much hipfire. Obviously, these things will change. Those are the two class setups, and it's really going to come down to preference at that point. So initially, like I mentioned, the Bison put a really bad taste in my mouth. A lot of people are trying to gas it up, best gun, blah, 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 in previous seasons. I was like, no way, that gun is terrible. And with the Bison, even if you weren't missing bullets, you would still get outgunned by most of the weapons. Even rifles up close, they could ADS and smoke you. That's how slow the TTK was. But just by boosting that rate of fire, that was like the buff the Bison needed, and it created the Bullfrog, which is the Bison 2.0. And personally, I had a lot of fun using the Bullfrog over the MAC-10 and the Cold War MP5 for a couple different reasons. One is the MAC-10 burns through ammo very quickly, and you're very lucky if you could down 2 players and maybe thirst one before you have to reload. In the general senses, obviously there are those scenarios where maybe you roll up on a team of 3, you take out all 3 people within the 1 mag, and it happens that they didn't have self-revive and you don't need to thirst anybody and you get a team wipe. That is few and far between when it comes to the MAC-10. What you see most people do is maybe they get a down and another down, and then they reload and have to thirst. That's normally what you see even from top players. And when it comes to the Cold War MP5, a couple of things that I didn't really like about it that the Bullfrog actually kind of creeps up in there for me is that hipfire accuracy, the aim down sight speed, which is incredibly important, and the versatility. Right now, the MP5, Cold War MP5 is great. When you're barrel stuffing someone, you will delete them. If you're pre-aiming, they come in, you will kill them very fast, and that's the whole point of using that weapon. As they get a little bit further away, 15, 20 meters, the weapon becomes a lot less viable. The TTK slows down quite a bit, and those shots get a little bit harder to hit. Even though it's only vertical recoil, the magnitude of that recoil is pretty strong, so you have to pull down a lot harder than most vertical recoil weapons. And that's kind of where it stacks up. That's why I like the Bullfrog. I ended up changing the color coding on my sheet of ranking them because I think it's a lot more viable. It's kind of like that MP7, but with a little bit faster time to kill, and that's one of the weaknesses of the MP7. So I think if you haven't tried it, definitely go try it out. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video, learned something new. If you did, please do me a favor, hit that like button if you're brand new, want to find your way back. Double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Appreciate all the support on the channel. Thank you for watching as always. Have a great day.